This is a disclaimer. While your friend at Dream Guides does not believe the moon ever needs to be discussed, your friend will take the time to help you navigate your dreams with the moon, because the moon is bossy and will insist on appearing in your dreams. This is the moon dream. We begin on a mattress. It is on a rocky foundation with an ocean view. A portrait of the great cacti hangs on your side of the bed, and it hangs on the cold air at night, and on the hot air in the day, and you are unhappy. Perhaps I am the night that is clear and silent. In what feels like a few weeks we will move the shoreline, before the water snatches our bed from beneath us. Before we wake with water in our mouths, paddling as we do now, pulling at driftwood as blankets to cover our skin. I remind you that the moon cannot be stolen, it can only be borrowed. And then I tell you that there is a surprise in the freezer. You hope it might be a pint of mint chocolate chip ice cream. You don't notice the moon resting on the bag of tater tots until I pull it out and place it in your cupped hands, and then tell you how cold it was when I unscrewed it from the sky, how I was afraid it might melt, and that is why it was in the freezer. We sit on the couch and roll the moon from your hands to mine and to yours again, and then lick the wet trail it has left on our palms. You say it tastes sweet like sugar. I say it tastes like muddy snow. You hold it to your chest like a mouse, gently rocking it, and you are almost in tears. You ask if the tides will be affected. I tell you that, yes, the tides will be affected. You sigh, and then we go outside, and I climb on top of the trunk of the car to the roof. Carefully, I stretch to reach to the sky and twist the moon like a light bulb back into place. And like a light bulb when it is firmly in the socket, the moon turned on and blinded me for a second. The moon floats away and back to where it belongs in the night. And then you tell me, thank you. What does this part of your dream mean? In the language of the mind, the moon represents the inner light of the luminous mind substance, which is made of tiny machines. Like many humans, you are made of tiny machines. From your lungs to your toes, you are built out of machines. And your awake life world is full of tiny machines. Look, a tiny machine is in your hand, and it wants your attention, and it impersonates your mother and asks you for your streaming video service password. Look, a tiny machine is in your hand, and it wants your attention, and it shows you a video of baby owls, and the baby owls are made of wires. There is nothing that can be done about the tiny machines in your mind or your life. You must live with them and try not to think about how each day they shrink to smaller and smaller sizes, even though at some point they will be small enough to replace the luminous mind substances within your mind. And then, without mental discipline or exercise, you will be at the mercy of sinister corporate interests who build the tiny machines, and they will desire the attention of your time and money. Now we drive 90 miles south to watch the lunar eclipse. Light pollution and clouds cover our view of the sky for the entire trip. We find a field with an open sky and park there. In the field your shoelaces forget their knots, and find a weed of hair in the grass. We follow the hair and its root to a scalp beneath the soil. You scream. And I take a photograph, and in the photograph, your screaming face also looks like your laughing face. We dig into the ground, and the white space under our nails turns black with dirt. We follow the stalk of hair deep into the soil and find a child. A faceless child that is made of roots. A faceless root that is armed with roots, and legged with roots, and footed with roots. And it is a child. You hear it cry. I take more photographs. We forget the moon. And you sit in the back seat with the child, and you wrapped it in sweatshirts. And you ask the baby if it is thirsty. And I watched in the rear view mirror. And you drizzle water from your water bottle on the baby's body. And the baby absorbed the dark spots of wetness, and the baby does not move. You ask me for more water, and at home we fill the bathtub with lukewarm water, and I lower the root baby into the tub. And it floats for a moment, then darkens, and the water darkens a moment, then disappeared, and the root baby sinks as it absorbs bath water into itself, and silt from the body of the baby created a ring around the tub. And you turned on the faucet again and refilled the bathtub to the silt mark. You sat on the toilet and placed your hand on the root head. What does this part of your dream mean? People spend time developing methods and practice rituals on the Earth's surface. One of these rituals is the burial of seeds to grow plants, which will create more seeds which will be eaten or planted within the surface of the earth. Many times when seeds are eaten, they are planted within the body, which is an extension of the surface of the earth. When you dream of removing roots from the surface of the earth, you are dreaming about removing your body from the surface of the earth. While it is the great wish of all humans to remove our bodies from the surface of the earth to replant it on the surface of another earth or moon, it is impossible at this time. The nations of the world are distracted by the surface of the earth, what they control, and what they wish to control on the surface of the earth, and the nations of the world have not dedicated enough funding for traveling even to the moon, which is just above us, sometimes shining bright for human root bodies to be planted on its surface. Now you are in your father's backyard. Your father is with his lawn mower. He thinks he hit a rock. The mower blade is broken into pieces, and among the pieces rested a dull gray orb, about the size of a sleeping bird. Your father tries to kick the orb away, but instead hurts his foot. He uses a shovel and tries to pry it from the ground. Even with both of us, the orb won't budge. Your father remembers that our neighbors own a truck and chains, and that they used bolts to pull a tree stump from the ground last fall. But the chains, as strong as they were, couldn't pull the thing out of place and almost snapped off the trailer hitch. You bend down and touch the orb. It is cold and powdery. You see pockmarks and craters, and say, "Dad, it's the moon." He doesn't believe you until you point out the American flag at Tranquility Base, and soon, everyone who lives on your street enters your father's backyard. You don't know how they found out so fast. They gather around the moon while you point out the American flag and the moon's other features. By this time, the sun is at noon, and your father, worried that the moon might melt, and asked for baggies of ice to place around it. The neighbors must have called others because more people arrived, and picnics appeared in the yard. First in the half of that wasn't mowed, and then spread across the whole yard. A line formed, and visitors tried to give your father money, and he would have taken it if not for the television reporters, who arrived as well and wanted his interview. and a man drove all the way from Illinois and licked the moon. He said it tasted like muddy snow. And then the president arrives, cutting short his summit in The Hague, to visit your town and to see the moon. And with him were astronauts in spacesuits who then attached cables that ran from its surface to their belts. And everyone wanted their picture. And your father thought it was good that the moon was so heavy, so that no one could steal it. And you ask him, does that mean it's ours? But he didn't know. At sunset you found that your father's house was out of toilet paper, ice, matches, corn chips and wheat bread, and your father starts to drive to the store, but notices a brightness among the silent crowd of visitors. The moon begins to shine and lift from the grass, inflating and growing larger. It grows and grows until it is above the house. The astronauts, who are connected by 50 feet of line, are pulled into the air. And the crowd rushes to them, and grab onto the astronauts' legs, and then each other, and then form thick chains of bodies that float skyward, above the town, and above the world. And now you are awake, and ready for another day, a day you will not need to think about the moon, because you have already thought all there is to think about the moon. This has been the Moon Dream, with your dream guide, friend. Dream guides are written and recorded by Chad Redden.